Ladies and gentlemen, a new episode of Moopy has come out and we're going to check it out. It's 51 minutes long. It's about the Epstein files, so it's going to be really intense. 303,000 people have already watched it in one day, so it looks like another Mikýř hit. And how I envy him. We'll see how much he says and what other information can be added to it. I've seen the trilogy by Petrinek Kozenars about QAnon and conspiracy theories, so I think I'm pretty well informed. And if something is said without proper context, I'll be very happy to add that context. So listen up, let's get started. Share, subscribe, like, and enjoy. And come to the live streams where this video and reaction are made, and our chat will be there too, of course.
At the height of the presidential campaign, over 33,000 emails of Hillary Clinton and her campaign manager John Podesta were published through the WikiLeaks website.
WikiLeaks released what it says are emails from her campaign chairman every day.
A new batch.
The numbers are staggering. 25 document dumps so far. They contain some potentially problematic revelations for the Democratic nominee.
The emails contain strange references to hot dogs, sacrificing a chicken to Moloch, and lending out pizza for an hour.
I'm not making any excuses. It was a mistake. Sorry about that.
Weird. As weird as John's brother's confirmed art collection.
What is Mikýř cooking up again? What kind of story is he cooking up for us this time? Yeah, but, you know, sometimes you need to be a bit more level-headed. Sometimes you need to see things a little less like there's a mystery everywhere and realize that sometimes pizza is just pizza. Do you understand? Yeah. Not everything is a code name. Not everything is a password. Sometimes a muffin is just a muffin.
Tony Podesta's. It's something that, if we showed it, you wouldn't be sure if that art should even be legal. After further investigation, a connection was found to the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria and its owner, James Elephantis. GQ ranked him among the 50 most influential people in DC. His success? Owning a local pizzeria. And political fundraising.
Who day?
For example, 2 bombs and others. Remember, this is just an alarm check, and these things can't really be verified anymore. Looking at Elephantis' now deleted Instagram, you might have seen photos of dozens of other people's children. Or a photo from a basement, which he simply named Kill Room. And that's how Pizzagate was born. And it doesn't look like the same building. And he claims that DC and the world elites are part of the so-called deep state, an international cabal of occult cannibals kidnapping children. They were supposed to meet in pizzerias that hide the same symbols in their logos as, according to the FBI, pedophiles use to identify themselves. What he means is that sooner or later, someone from the spiral triangle will show up in some pizzeria sooner or later.
Haha, oh. Subtitles created by Johnny X. Subtitles created by Johnny X.
Pizzagate was a huge scandal that eventually led to a shooting at Pizza Comet Ping Pong, during which computer equipment behind a locked room in the restaurant was destroyed. And all the data on them.
Yeah, the shooting at Pizza Comet Ping Pong, that was the event when a guy who got red-pilled by conspiracy theories about Democratic pedophiles in the basement of the pizzeria stormed into the place, started shooting, and demanded access to the basement. But the problem was that the pizzeria didn't have a basement at all. Then the cops showed up and just took him down. And do you think that the people who believed there was some pizzeria where ugly things were happening to kids underground said to themselves, aha, fair enough, I guess it's nonsense? No. They literally started to see the whole operation as a false flag, an attack, as a Secret Service operation to actually protect that place. Like, yeah, sure, but that guy, the cops, the fact that there's no basement, the whole operation, it's just theater, and they're trying to discredit the conspiracy, that the truth is no longer the truth. But we know where the truth is.
Subtitles created by Johnny X. Subtitles were made only because the whole conspiracy is absolute madness. Because honestly, an international band of ultra-rich elites abusing minors, is crazy.
No kidding. That's conspiracy thinking. You're completely crazy if you think that.
No? Notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell in the early morning of August 10th, 2019.
Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
By suicide overnight in a Manhattan jail cell.
Even though it was officially determined that he died from his own hand, there are people who believe there's something wrong here.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Didn't kill himself.
It would be almost impossible Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. Who was Jeffrey Epstein, and why is the whole internet telling me he didn't kill himself? Could you please give us your name?
Name Jeffrey Epstein, who made a fortune as a hedge fund manager in the 1980s and 1990s, known for his lavish lifestyle and high-profile connections.
Sources tell CBS News financier Jeffrey Epstein may have tried to kill himself in jail.
This is Little St. James, also known as Epstein Island. Epstein purchased Little St. James in 1998. He made the island his primary residence and soon after began welcoming visitors.
So what was so special about that island that everyone was flying there?
And throwing infamous parties where he was accused of having groomed, sexually assaulted, and trafficked untold numbers of women and girls.
Jeffrey Epstein used the Lolita Express to surround himself with a bevy of beautiful young women.
So when you name your plane the Lolita Express, it's a little weird. Yeah, it's a little weird. And I'm pretty fascinated that so few Japanese people are connected to that whole island.
Which express did they fly there with?
They used the Lolita Express, Epstein's plane.
Files in their entirety.
1 million pages, 2,000 videos, 180,000 images.
The fullest picture we have. From former royals to celebrities to politicians, these files continue to cause aftershocks around the world.
Yes, I was on Sex Island, but only for the snorkeling. I didn't know anything about the kid.
Stuff.
Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton.
Michael Jackson. Like, hey, on an island where girls are regularly trafficked for sex and these kinds of things, you could just be there for snorkeling. Hey, that's still an option. You know, in Amsterdam, there are lots of brothels and people smoke weed and so on, but you could go there for the cathedral. Do you understand?
I mean, Stephen Hawking, what was he doing there? Who wasn't friends with this billionaire?
Hawking held that party for time travelers, right? That he actually didn't hold it at Harvard University, but in reality, he held that party for time travelers on Epstein Island.
Suicide overnight in a Manhattan jail cell.
So you're telling me the guy just killed himself in prison?
Epstein was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan, known as the Special Housing Unit.
When he was in the very unit that's supposed to prevent suicide attempts.
Fake news, actually. He was in the unit that's supposed to prevent suicide attempts. He got special shoes, special clothes that can't be torn, you know, shoes without laces, those kinds of things. But he was only in that cell, which is supposed to prevent suicide, for a week, and then he was sent back to a regular cell. Yeah, so the guy who tried to commit suicide, well, Epstein said his cellmate tried to kill him, okay. But the guy who, according to the prison, tried to commit suicide was transferred to the unit for inmates who attempted suicide. He was given special equipment so he couldn't commit suicide. But after a week, it was decided that this suicidal inmate was actually fine and could return back. Yeah, so this is a bit shady.
Okay, who were the guards? They were sleeping. What about the security footage? It just happened to not be working at that moment. What does the forensic expert say? Textbook suicide, deal with this. Okay, it looks like everyone is lying to us, but luckily we can rely on our president, who was literally elected on the platform of dealing with the DC swamp.
You. Yeah.
The Jeffrey Epstein scandal is unmatched in modern politics. If you had told someone 60 years ago that top politicians, scientists, actors, and industry leaders were all meeting on a remote island to have orgies with underage girls, they would probably have called you a crazy conspiracy theorist. Okay, man, what are you going to tell us next? That we have poisonous epicalia in the house?
Using Kentile vinyl asbest tile. Save every way with Kentile vinyl asbest tile.
Well, and if you had told someone 10 years ago that this island exists and that it really was the way it turns out to have been, you would have said, okay, that's nonsense. That's some kind of nonsense. You're exaggerating a bit. And the problem is that people tend to exaggerate because, not even now, right? Still not enough for them or for you. It's just not enough that it's an island where sex trafficking happened. No, you just needed more.
Cannibalismus.
I get it. I get it. Because you know what? We, people like me, we are the problem. We are the problem because we always say,
what?
A sex trafficking island full of weird billionaires? A bit over the top, buddy. And then, okay, so it did exist. But sex trafficking of runaway kids? That's a bit over the top, buddy. No? And what will turn out soon, we'll see.
We'll see. Today we're not talking about any conspiracy theory. Actually, here we're talking about a real uncovered conspiracy across the government structure of the USA and other world powers. In a just system, Epstein and his accomplices would have been imprisoned for life long ago. And instead, through the failures of the police, courts, politicians, and even intelligence services in 2008, he was declared the deal of the millennium. In exchange for 13 months of part-time jail time, Epstein got lifetime immunity from prosecution for himself and his accomplices. And all of this sounds really interesting, but I just need to know if Trump really outsmarted Bill Clinton.
And now I have the email. Does Putin have the photo of Trump giving oral sex to a woman?
Most of us have some awareness of the Epstein case, and sometimes it can be hard to tell what's fact and what's already a conspiracy theory. So in order to distinguish fact from fiction and get our bearings in this story, we'll have to use the oldest narrative tool. Return to where it all started. The internet is a strange place. Whoa! Join us as we go right to its core.
This is gonna be big.
Join us on Mikýř's amazing journey through the internet. Internet, wow. Jeffrey Edward Epstein grew up in New York in an average family. His mom worked as a school assistant and his dad as a Parks Department gardener. Epstein was academically gifted. He even skipped 2 grades in elementary school. He showed talent mainly in math, which he later went on to study in college.
Yeah, nerds are dangerous.
This didn't stop him from following the ancient rule of Japan, which is to lie on your resume. Specifically that he had a bachelor's degree. Epstein started his career teaching at the prestigious Dalton School. This 21-year-old back-to-back university dropout didn't fit in with the teaching staff in terms of age, experience, or style of dress. He got the job simply because he impressed the person who arranged it for him. The school's principal, Donald Barr, which is also one of the first interesting figures to appear in Epstein's story. Donald Barr was not only an OSS agent, which is the predecessor of the CIA, but he was also the father of William Barr, the Attorney General under the Trump administration. And he happened to be overseeing the Department of Justice at the same time Epstein died in prison.
What a coincidence. And it's still interesting how it's inherited, right? Like father, like son. One is the CIA chief and director, the other is right here, a Justice Department guy. Almost as if it's a closed system that doesn't really let ordinary people in. Almost as if democracy in the United States has turned into an oligarchy.
A very interesting coincidence. There will be plenty more stories like that. Donald, the principal of a school that teaches students aged 5 to 18, also wrote a sci-fi novel called Space Relations, a slightly gothic interplanetary tale. A novel that's full of scenes where underage people, often enslaved, are sexually abused and raped by a group of oligarchs. This guy opened the door to high society for Epstein. 2 years later, in 1976, Epstein was fired after it came to light that he had lied about his degree from Stanford. There were also various stories whispered in the halls of Dalton about how Epstein was charismatic, how he devoted a lot of attention to his students, but also about how this attention wasn't always strictly academic. According to some, he was getting a little too close with female students and even attended student parties where 15-year-old students were drinking alcohol in the presence of 21-year-old Epstein. So basically, your average gym teacher.
Totally normal.
In this video, we'll try to present only confirmed information. We won't get into conspiracies. That's why we made bonus content.
It's really simple, I figured it out. Jeffrey Epstein, at 21 years old, started working at a school where he taught young, beautiful girls. Okay, he was drinking with 16-year-olds, he was 20, drinking with 16-year-olds, he enjoyed it, he liked it. The age gap was 4 years, relatively okay. But then he kind of forgot to grow out of it. He started drinking and sleeping with 16-year-olds, even at 50, which wasn't okay anymore. You understand? Yeah, that was weird even for those times.
Getting fired wasn't an issue for Epstein, since at a parent-teacher meeting, he allegedly impressed a parent with his math skills. Personally, I picture it this way. This parent happened to be someone you might know of. Adolf Hitler. No. Okay, it was the CEO of Company B. That's similar. Everyone saw in Epstein exactly the type of person he was looking for. Greenberg actually preferred people who were so-called PSD. The end. Subtitles created by Johnny X. That's me. Like this little spider F. That's not me. That's not me. That's not me. I'm not. That's not me. The end. Subtitles created by Johnny X. Subtitles created by Johnny X. Subtitles created by Johnny X. Even though he got caught again, he managed to keep his job. Even then, he had a remarkable talent for attracting and keeping influential clients.
It must have been so incredibly easy to pull off these scams back then, right? Today, everything is connected, everything can be verified, everything is in some kind of registry somewhere, everything is... Man, you can Google it in a minute or just ask AI. Back then, everything was on a card, so you made a card, man. All you had to do was fake it, well, just fake it, and you could fly, just pilot a plane. You saw it, right? I'm not sure you can do it. The guy faked everything. Those were just different times.
Epstein had a superpower for charming the elite, which is strange because he was a poor kid from Brooklyn and he dressed and spoke like it. But in those upper circles, it was an anomaly. So to the big players from Wall Street, he seemed eccentric. Simply put, Jeffrey was the coolest guy in town. Nobody online really knows what kind of person he was, except that he did terrible things, yet he is still somewhat adored. His value mainly came from his access to beautiful and young women. Through leaked emails, we can see that, for example, the former president of Harvard, Lawrence Summers, asks Epstein for tips and tricks on picking up girls.
We'll go over phrases that are best for approaching a girl you like. Don't forget.
Hey, gorgeous. Were you generated by AI by any chance? Because you're absolutely flawless. And I don't mind the 6 fingers.
It's no surprise Epstein was welcomed in high society. In the 80s, young Jeff was such a catch he was featured in magazines, including Cosmopolitan's Bachelor of the Month column. At 27 years old and without a college degree, he described himself as a financial strategist who only takes on clients whose earnings exceed.
Actually, just like the average Instagram user today.
Exceeded billions of dollars a year. Last but not least, the whole section ended with an announcement for single young ladies who might be interested in this bachelor. You are a beautiful Texan. Right, this New York dynamo. It has matured nicely. In 81, Epstein leaves Bear Stearns. After being accused of insider trading and for lending his friend Warren Eisenstein $20,000, which was originally meant for buying stocks but ended up being used to buy a condominium. According to Bear Stearns, Epstein left voluntarily, but according to other sources, he was fired. Epstein leaves with only a small box of personal belongings. But among them is also an award from Cosmopolitan magazine. Here, Epstein starts to show his true colors as we know him today. He establishes his own financial consulting firm, creatively naming it Intercontinental Asset Group. The company focused on ultra-wealthy clients, but it only gained them after shifting its focus to recovering stolen money from financial fraudsters. Which is ironic, considering they had clients who might have embezzled some money themselves. Around 1984 to 1985, he was supposed to meet Donald Trump. It's a friendship that still haunts the current president to this day.
Those were the days. The 80s in America, man. Those were the days.
Epstein and Trump were big players in New York and in Palm Beach, Florida. They were often seen together at various events in places like Mar-a-Lago. Trump owned several beauty pageants, including Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, and Epstein was reportedly seen at these events as well. There were several allegations of inappropriate behavior around these events, as well as a few lawsuits, but Trump has never been convicted in connection with any such allegation. Even so, based on his own words, it can be inferred that the conduct at those events was not strictly professional. Trump and Epstein were very good friends from the 80s to the early 2000s.
I've known Jeffrey for 15 years. Terrific guy.
At least that's how Trump saw it.
He's a lot of fun to be with. He even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I.
Is that Trump's voice?
The younger side.
Nah.
All right.
The younger side.
Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Together, they got up to all sorts of boyish antics, like when, in 1992, Trump threw a party with calendar models. Jill Hart, Epstein's former girlfriend, said the event was to be presented as a big party, with young models serving as entertainment for guests. The only two guests were Trump and Epstein.
Nice!
Trump was such a good buddy of Epstein that he drew him this.
It's like birthday party fights for fame.
A picture and a poem in a now infamous book where his other powerful buddies gave him similar greetings. Trump, of course, claims that it was fabricated, and he and his inner circle pulled out the Trump card that Trump would never have drawn this, because he simply doesn't draw. Even though he drew this and he also drew this, but he didn't draw this one. He drew this. I drew this. 20 years ago, the world looked like this. Landlines, phone booths, push-button phones. You made wallpapers, ringtones, or games for your cell phone. You had to buy it. You sent premium SMS for 30 crowns to a number from a newspaper ad. I'm not kidding. I lived through it. At that time, that was the average mortgage payment. But that desktop smiley made it worth connecting to the internet. And you just prayed that your mom wouldn't start calling on the landline. Text messages had a limited number of characters, so it was common practice to cut and edit the text so we wouldn't have to pay for two. It wasn't cheap. Calling someone was 10 times more expensive for the same amount of time. Through his own cards,
Good advertisement.
from this birthday card and some newly released emails, it's very likely that Trump at least knew about what Epstein and his associates were doing at his parties. In 1984, Epstein's business faces a minor obstacle in the form of a lawsuit from his former client, Mikýř, who sued him for the loss of $450,000 in an oil transaction. Epstein won this lawsuit, but he also meets his biggest client, Leslie Wexner, billionaire owner of L Brands,
The guy can't handle it.
a brand like Victoria's Secret, and most importantly for us, also a person very closely connected to Epstein. He was actually in charge of Wexner's finances, and there was such trust between them that he had Wexner's power of attorney. With Wexner's money, he bought a townhouse in Manhattan where Epstein later lived. And thanks to Wexner and his billionaire status, Epstein then had the necessary clout and access to other billionaires so that with his charm and personality, he could add more big names to his circle of friends.
The thing was, the guy he was working for had such a fat wallet that he simply didn't notice Epstein had taken a couple of billion from him. Yeah, that Epstein just, with the money, he spravoval, koupil letadlo, and then he sold them for even more money. He bought his house with that. Plain and simple, he effectively robbed that guy of hundreds of millions of dollars, and the guy was just like, Where are my coins? Where are my coins? Yeah, so based on that, Epstein built up his capital.
Wexner was a very important client for Epstein. Access to L Brands, and especially to the Victoria's Secret brand, helped Epstein lure more victims, mostly young girls who wanted to become models. Epstein lied about his involvement with this company and pretended to be a recruiter. The girls who saw a meeting with Epstein as a chance at a modeling career unknowingly stepped into his trap. Testimony from several victims revealed these fake castings were simply opportunities for Epstein to assault the girls. At this time, during a vacation on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, Epstein met a 14-year-old girl referred to in the 2019 court documents only as Jane Doe 4.
That's tough, yeah. In this regard, I'm the kind of person who thinks that if the girl was over 18, she could have known better by then. Yeah, I get that she was poor, I get that she had ambitions, I get the naivety, blah 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 blah. But you can't just say at that moment that Epstein is some kind of flawless god who can completely manipulate someone who doesn't want to do things at all. kterých se viděl. If you know what I mean, yeah. But when those girls are just young, like younger than adults, then at that moment it's just fucked up, you know? At that moment, the position of power and control is so clearly in Epstein's favor that he could effectively be called almost like a godlike being in the world of those girls. Yeah. But when those girls are adults saying, well, Epstein this, Epstein that, they couldn't do anything at all. Look, to me, that seems a bit like you're really completely taking away any ability of women to make good decisions, honestly. You're completely degrading them to animals, which I also find a bit strange. They were identified as changers.
The girl was the daughter of the woman who rented the beach house to Epstein. The girl usually worked as a nanny for vacationing couples and wasn't surprised when the woman rented the house to Epstein. And when the girl arrived at the house, he offered her alcohol and drugs. That night, Epstein raped her. This abuse continued for years. According to court documents, Epstein transported the girl across state lines several times, 3 or 4 times to New York, to offer her as fresh meat to his circle of male friends.
This is the absolutely disgusting thing, the vile thing about that man. Someone the girl really couldn't do anything about. And on top of that, she was a child, so you can't even be mad at her for making such strange decisions. And so on and so forth, that she couldn't defend herself, that she couldn't make the right decision, that she couldn't influence it, that she simply couldn't do anything about it, and that's fair. At this moment, you can't have any such demands on her, and all the responsibility lies with Epstein. And then, when it comes to, say, 20-year-old girls, I would say that you can't really say they couldn't do anything at all, that they could have, for example, decided to find out something about Epstein. For example. So you can't just make those people, those victims, out to be completely helpless sheep. You just can't do that. It seems really humiliating even to those people who are the victims. You have to admit they made some mistakes. Because at that moment, if you don't admit they made a mistake, you're basically taking away their responsibility for their own life.
Further her modeling career and something that she had to do.
The lawsuit contains disturbing descriptions.
Overall, at that point, you're spreading this narrative that we poor, ambitious people are on the menu of the rich who can do whatever they want with us and we can't influence it. No, I mean, I think we have the ability to make the right decisions and to act and be careful. Yeah? How did you find that out? Well, Epstein had a weird reputation for a really long time, and this is it.
That a circle of friends was raped and beaten, and their identities were not made public.
Doe was also associated with violence against 2 people who never revealed what happened.
He combined these somewhat immoral leisure activities with the hard ethical work of a consultant for his high-profile clients. For example, Adnan Khashoggi, a Saudi Arabian businessman and arms dealer. Yes, Epstein helped people like that with their finances. In 1987, Epstein met Stephen Huffenberg and joined Tower Financial Corporation. Now look at the logo and tell me what you see. A phallic shape. The important thing is the shape of the whole composition.
Thank you for your attention. The striping...
Oh God.
Protože neuvěříte, co Jeffrey vymyslel za fintu. Epstein se nakonec stává součástí obřího Ponzi schéma.
Yeah, the pyramid. Oh, I thought it was about Jews. Never mind, it's fine. Ponzi scheme, it's fine.
That's the original pyramid scheme, using new investors' money to pay the old ones. According to Huffenberg, who was convicted for this fraud, Epstein was the real mastermind behind the whole operation. Epstein was never prosecuted for this fraud. During his time at Towers Financial, Epstein told a few people that he was an intelligence agent.
Interesting. Here's the argument. If you were poor in the 80s, your options for verifying information were very limited. Fair. But like I said, trafficking until 2018, I think, or something like that. He was really doing it even in modern times, when it was already possible to verify things, and when he already had a weird reputation, and he was still getting away with it. So the thing is, even today, there are still a lot of predators like this that we don't know about at all, and girls still fall for it. And I think it's completely stupid on their part and that there should be greater awareness that this danger exists. I'm not really sure how to get it through to those girls that this business is just dangerous and you need to be careful. So with you, I don't know if the problem is that we're raising princesses who think they're unique, so... takže immediately a billionaire wants to make them a famous model. Honestly, I don't see the issue. But you can't put all the responsibility just on the predators, right? Victims have to be able to protect themselves, and that means being cautious.
Yeah? You can't just talk about us, about poor people or young girls, just as a mass of people that predators can do whatever they want with.
Yeah, then...
A Polish passport with his photo, but a false name. According to the official story cooked up by his lawyers, he was supposed to have this fake passport because as a Jewish businessman, he could face the danger of being kidnapped when traveling to the Middle East. Despite having stamps from the United Kingdom, Spain, France, and Saudi Arabia, there are only two logical explanations. He got it illegally or an intelligence agency gave it to him. We'll discuss the second option later, so remember it. To recap, by the end of the 80s, Epstein was allegedly already a serial pedophile, financial fraudster with a fake passport, and possibly linked to intelligence agencies. But that wasn't enough for Epstein. He aimed to be the best. The 90s were Epstein's golden years. At this point, his longtime girlfriend enters the story.
Not for everyone. The Soviet Union, right? It wasn't good for the Soviet Union, man, but otherwise, for the whole world, the 90s are the golden era of humanity.
Maxwellová.
The daughter of media mogul and super spy Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was born in Czechoslovakia to a Jewish family under the birth name Jan Ludwig Hyman Benjamin Hoch. He escaped to England during World War II, where he adopted his new name, Robert Maxwell. He worked in the British intelligence service SOE, where after the war he served as...
Is that our man?
...with a German publishing house, which after the war published scientific journals for the Reich. This publishing house was bought in 1952 and renamed Pergamon Press, and the purchase itself was supposed to be motivated and financed by MI6. He was reportedly linked to American and Israeli intelligence. These connections suggest he likely served as an asset for multiple agencies. According to the British Parliament, he revealed to Mossad the whereabouts of Mordecai Vanunu. Vanunu was publishing information about Israeli nuclear weapons, which they are not supposed to have. Speculation about Maxwell increased due to his ties with communist dictators. His companies included various European media such as newspapers and magazines. This former Czechoslovak refugee worked his way up in a few years to become a giant media mogul.
Why do Czechs have their fingers in everything? Literally, that guy could have been from Serbia, Ukraine, Russia, Poland, anywhere. Why is he from Czechoslovakia? Why again? Why is he from Czechoslovakia again? Why is it that some important person in some important case, whether positive or negative, is again connected to Czechia? Good old Czech ingenuity, yeah, of course, man. We're world class again. We're world class again. Yes, yes. Clever Czechs, clever Czechs. From Atomovka to the Epstein files, we're everywhere.
He had 2 children and lived in a large Oxford mansion where business leaders, politicians, heads of state, and nobles visited daily. Everyone wanted a piece of Robert Maxwell, but he also had 30,000 employees and over $500 million disappeared from their pension fund. And as if that wasn't enough, he's also behind the bylines on the article. Robert Maxwell is fortunate that someone else already holds the title of the 20th century's biggest villain. Maxwell died on his yacht known as the Lady Ghislaine, named after his favorite daughter. Maxwell supposedly had a heart attack and fell into the sea, where he was later found. There's also a theory that Mossad murdered him while they were trying to blackmail him for money. He was buried in Israel with a significant funeral attended by Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, President Chaim Herzog, and at least 6 current and former Israeli intelligence chiefs.
It's actually normal for killers within mafia structures to gather at the funeral of someone they had taken out. That's a common thing, yeah. Hitler also attended Rommel's funeral, right? And how he cried.
And countless representatives and politicians from the Israeli government and opposition. Ghislaine Maxwell was his youngest daughter, who got involved with Epstein in the early 90s. She was supposed to have met him in the 80s. According to Hoffenberg, Robert Maxwell introduced them. He's the one Epstein was supposed to do the Ponzi scheme with. Ghislaine Maxwell was an integral part of Epstein's operation. After her father's death, she became de facto dependent on Epstein both financially and emotionally. Even though she wasn't really struggling financially because she inherited an annual income of £80,000 from her father, she still claimed that she was poor. Her devastation came more from the loss of prestige. As a child, she grew up in a huge mansion where elites from various countries would come and go visiting her father. But after his death, Robert Maxwell also lost the respect of the public because suddenly he was seen as a fraud, which he undoubtedly was.
A fraud, huh? Mikýř, are you trying to suggest to me that the word fraud was randomly chosen? Yes. No, this is not a coincidence. Maxwell drowned. This is supposed to be a joke. This is a joke. You bastard. That's a joke you didn't tell me about. That's a joke you didn't warn me about. You just made it and moved on.
But her role in Epstein's life was very significant. Not only was she able to connect him with an even higher elite like Prince Andrew, but she also tried to turn him into one of the elite.
Yeah. Prince Andrew.
A more sophisticated man. After all, he was a kid from Brooklyn who wore hoodies and sweatpants in high society. Ghislaine, being part of high society, gave him a new perspective on upper-class behavior and conduct. At first glance, Epstein and Maxwell seemed more like close friends than a loving couple. Their love language wasn't spending time together or affectionate touches. Instead, her love was expressed by helping him recruit and rape young girls. Like in 1994 when she abused a young girl who was only 13 years old, and according to her mother, she looked much younger.
These incidents led to two very vile individuals meeting and falling in love with each other. For them, something wonderful, something beautiful happened. The girl found a disgusting boy and fell in love with him.
These things weren't new for Jeffrey. It's unclear how Maxwell, who came from an influential family and moved among the real elite, became involved.
Oh, America.
Maxwell developed a tactic that they used for a long time to recruit and abuse countless young girls. Their location in Palm Beach was perfect, because not far from their million-dollar neighborhood and expensive surroundings, there were less privileged areas where Epstein and Maxwell recruited their victims. The method they used to recruit girls was basically crude.
Every girl that meets Jeffrey starts talking about a massage. The more you do with him, the more you make. Basically, if you take off your clothes, you're going to make more. If you let him do things to you, you'll get more. I didn't because I wouldn't let him touch me. After that, he said, "He's a good son. I'll pay you $200 for each girl you bring me."
She's like, "Oh, you're not gonna make any extra money? Oh my gosh."
This is literally like a pyramid scheme. Just bring a friend and you'll get money from what your friend earns.
You know, like $200. It's this older guy in Palm Beach. He gets a lot of massages from girls. You know, that's all she told me.
His victims were mostly poor young girls from troubled families. Sometimes homeless or on the verge of homelessness with a history of drug use or with problematic behavior that sent them from one foster home to another. He targeted people who were easiest to discredit with police or in court, because a few expensive lawyers can turn a rape victim into just another junkie who wants to sue an innocent poor old man for money for their next fix.
One of those girls was Michelle Licata, who was just 16 years old when she was approached by a friend at school. In the days leading up to Christmas, all Michelle needed to do was give a massage.
He targeted people using the police and courts to easily discredit them. Because a few lawyers can turn a rape case into just another case of an innocent, helpless old man being sued by another girl for money. He specifically targeted people who were easiest to discredit with the police or in court.
She'd get $200. Before she knew it, Michelle was whisked inside and led upstairs by several other women she had never met to a cold, dark bathroom where she was forced to encounter Jeffrey Epstein lying face down on the massage table talking on the phone.
And about 5 minutes into it, he took the towel off and started to pleasure himself, which I was very uncomfortable with.
And the massage turned into sexual assault.
New victims were brought into the system under the pretense of quick money. At first, Maxwell herself did it, and later it was the abused girls. Is it just a quick massage for a rich guy who pays really well? And for these equally easily exploited girls, the idea of making $200 an hour is just too tempting to refuse.
The Miami Herald identified nearly 80 girls molested by Epstein.
One victim by the name of Carolyn, who was abused by Epstein starting in 2001, testified in court that she had become.
You know, I'm not trying to victim blame here, just know, of course, the culprit is Epstein. But, like, what can you do against a rich guy if you're poor? What you do is you just don't go there. Yeah. Nobody here beat anyone up or kidnapped anyone in a van. It was just about this. But your friend jerked off some old rich guy and now she's saying, hey, go jerk him off too. You'll get $200. And you say, okay. Like, you have the option not to do it, for example. Yeah. So I wouldn't frame it from the outset as if Epstein's girls somehow bear no guilt. Because the moment we take away the guilt, even from the victims, we take away the responsibility of those victims for their own lives and their ability to make decisions, which isn't true. People have the ability to make decisions. And it's necessary to keep emphasizing this ability so that no one, I repeat, no one shirks responsibility for their own life. Because then people can do whatever they want with you. You're judging a 16-year-old with the mind of an experienced 35-year-old. I'm not 35, I'm 28. Asshole. But of course, I understand, but that girl still has to get by somehow. I remember how I used to think when I was 16, I understand, but even at 16, I was like, even at 16, I knew, like, doing these kinds of things is weird and it's not exactly safe, right? At 15, you can't make decisions, but come on, don't make 15-year-olds out to be completely stupid people. Basically, if someone told you at 15, hey, there's a weird lady living in that house over there. Yeah. Here's $200 if you go have sex with her. Hey, she's like 40, yeah, and she gives you $200 or she just gives you $5,000 for having sex with her. Would you go into a weird house to have sex with a weird lady that people whisper about? I know it's kind of the opposite situation, but I'm talking to you as a guy, right? So would you go? What's wrong with you people, damn? What? I'm going there, Jesus Christ, what? I'm 14 and I can make my own decisions. Okay, boom, Tom. Imagine that at this very moment you find out, hey, there's a house over there, a rich lady lives there. And there's a weird story about her, like maybe strange things are happening there. Maybe she's a bit strange. But I slept with her and she gave me $10,000. And she said that if you go there and sleep with her too, you'll also get $10,000. Would you go? You're 14, right? I want the address right then. I don't know, maybe I was a precocious child, but I just knew at 16 that adults can be weird and that it's not really a good idea to go to strangers with those... I don't know. Maybe he was just weird. Maybe I'm the weird one. And maybe most people really are completely clueless at 16. Maybe so. Maybe so. And they can't make decisions and just aren't capable of being careful. They're not capable of rational thinking. Maybe so. Maybe that's true. Do you have that lady's address? I don't. Yeah, I'm just repeating here. I'm not blaming those girls for it or anything like that, and I'm not taking any blame off Epstein. I'm just fascinated by how careless these people are, and it seems to me that saying things like this, well, they were just there and couldn't do anything, it's just too tempting, it kind of takes away from them the fact that they made a mistake, you know? You know what I mean? Yeah, and at that moment, it's kind of like, it's not really that cautionary case for me, at least not yet. Yeah, it's kind of presented as if they didn't have a choice, as if they couldn't decide differently. It's just more like childish naivety. At 16, I get that you're naive, but still, you're not 12 anymore, you know? At 16, back in the 90s, we were really clueless as kids. Today, kids at 5 or 6 are way ahead of where we were. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, back then in the 90s, when you were 16, you were maybe more naive than today's 10-year-olds, you know? Like, it's possible that maybe I'm looking at it through the eyes of someone who was 16 in 2013. Maybe it was already a different world. In the 90s or the 2000s, it was just different.
Addicted to pain pills and cocaine in an effort to block out the abuse she endured at 14 years old.
For me, even to this day, it's still the craziest thing to me. I had such craziness. Got into the hard drug. They'd be like, you're a whore, like you're never gonna be good enough for the rest of your life and the rest of your life.
In retrospect, it's clear that Epstein either felt absolutely untouchable or he's completely stupid. He barely tried to hide it. If we go back to his birthday book, all his friends are dropping hints and kind of playing with the idea that there's some big open secret there. Trump literally says in interviews that Epstein likes young girls, and Epstein doesn't use encrypted phones, VPNs, or Proton Mail accounts.
I have a question. Why is Trump's signature on that picture in the place where the hair should be? Trump's signature and Trump's name are literally a pussy.
Tybee writes all of that through Gmail. Outside of high schools and through previous victims, Epstein recruited perhaps his most famous victim, Virginia Giuffre. And it was nowhere else but in Donald Trump's club, Mar-a-Lago, where young Virginia worked at the spa. In 1996, at the age of 16, she met Maxwell while working at the Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach. Maxwell recruits Virginia to work for Epstein as a trainee masseuse, and almost immediately, Epstein and Maxwell make her their personal sex slave. Recruiting this young girl caused Epstein and Trump's friendship to end. It was first speculated that Epstein had either done something terrible at Trump's club or had a major conflict during a real estate deal. Instead, through Donald Trump, it came to light that he was just angry that Epstein had stolen Virginia from him.
People that work in the spa have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago, and people were taken out of the spa, hired by him.
Does that include Virginia? Jeffrey? I don't know.
I think she worked at the spa. I think that was one of the things he stole from her.
When it was presented, the act, it was about this act. When it was presented like that.
That Epstein was... On the surface, okay, Donald Trump is weird and a bad liar, I think, yeah. Yes. Overall, Donald is really transparent there. His rhetoric, the way he flatters you. Donald Trump is the most transparent con artist in history. I don't get how people can believe him.
He sent her all over the world to satisfy his rich and powerful friends. The best-known victim of Epstein was Virginia Giuffre. Among these powerful friends was Prince Andrew, whom Giuffre met through Ghislaine.
Maybe that transparency is the weapon? People just say he's so transparent. He hides nothing, so he must be okay. You know, if he were doing something wrong, he'd probably hide it more. He'd have to be smarter, more cunning. That simplicity, that transparency, that straightforwardness might actually be his weapon.
She accused Andrew of sexual assault when she was underage, and not just once, but several times in London, New York, and on Epstein's private island, Little City. I'm James Highland. Jeffrey Epstein bought this original Caribbean island for $8 million, which included a movie theater, a pool with an underwater mosaic depicting
The price of an apartment in New York, man.
a submarine where they put Stephen Hawking, and last but not least, some kind of massage hut that looks like a temple.
Israeli colors, let's go.
Definitely used only for worship. In short, it was a very impressive island even for ultra-wealthy people, because besides the price of $8 million, such an island costs a lot of money to maintain. Such an expensive thing only helped Epstein maintain the persona of a billionaire, which he never really was. No one really knew how he got his money, but nobody cared as long as they got an invitation to the island.
When would the wildest party on your island be?
My name is Elon Musk, and there's something comical about everything human.
It's actually true that I was only at dinners, you know. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, you know, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Now it's time to clarify one more thing.
Gatesy was also really transparent. Those people just didn't know how to argue. The moment you start gesticulating like that and your body language is the way it is, it's obvious that you're weird.
At least for the first few years, you could probably use the excuse that you didn't really know what was going on there. Fine. But at the beginning of the millennium, rumors started spreading about the activities that the elites were secretly engaging in there. Names like Pedophile Island, Island of Sin, or simply Epstein's Island, Bill Clinton.
Nice guy, got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
In other cases, it would be hard to determine exactly when the ignorance argument stops working, but fortunately, in Epstein's case, we have an exact year. 2008. In 2005, he was accused of abusing a 14-year-old girl in his Palm Beach villa. And thanks to this lawsuit, the police were able to interview other victims and finally managed to obtain physical and electronic evidence that supported the accusation. In May 2006, the police finally arrested Epstein for sex with a minor, and this process dragged on until 2008. And that's where perhaps the most important event of the entire Epstein case happens. Here, it basically becomes clear that it's not just about incompetence of the state and the police, but an outright conspiracy. Epstein actually
He got a few months in a cushy prison.
In a deal with the prosecutor. With his lawyer, Alan Dershowitz's help, the prosecutor offered him an incredible plea deal. Epstein, who was originally facing 60 different charges, under this new deal only had to plead guilty to 1 count of soliciting prostitution and 1 count of soliciting prostitution from a minor.
Damn, that's what I call the art of the deal. Donald Trump has nothing on that.
Epstein successfully avoided sex trafficking charges and got the deal of the century, which, in exchange for his guilty plea, reduced his original life sentence threat to just 18 months in prison. He was allowed to leave prison for work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, which basically isn't prison at all. Epstein would leave prison in a limousine and stop by his luxury mansions. And besides that, the plea deal also included an unprecedented non-prosecution agreement. It granted immunity to potential accomplices named by Epstein and to all future accomplices. That means individuals who helped Epstein commit his main crimes cannot be prosecuted under this agreement based on information Epstein provided about them. Today, this is one of the main arguments used by Ghislaine Maxwell's defense. They argue that she should technically be included in this agreement and therefore should be released immediately.
So basically the point here is that all the people who were involved back then are instantly pardoned. In America, nobody was arrested. Exactly, because everyone got this deal, everyone got this pardon. That's crazy. But yeah, right, I mean, when they got a deal like this, what do you want to do about it? You can at most say that this deal isn't valid, but then you'd be questioning the entire legal system. It's already in question, of course, by the deal itself, but maybe say that this deal is invalid. It would undermine the legal system less than saying it does apply, right?
Epstein got this sweetheart deal for pretty much nothing. He gave nothing to the state. He got unprecedented protection from any future prosecution. And he was given a ridiculous sentence, which for him was just a minor inconvenience. On top of that, the whole deal was made without informing the victims, which broke the law.
Crime Victims' Rights Act.
And did anyone care? Of course not. The state prosecutor who approved this deal, Alexander Acosta, according to journalist Vicky Ward, later claimed that the reason Epstein got such a light sentence was because he was told that Epstein was part of an intelligence agency and that he shouldn't dig into it because it was above his pay grade. If Vicky Ward's source is correct, this confirms it.
Literally like a dialogue option from Mass Effect, man. You just come in and say, this is a special agency investigation, don't worry about it too much. What about them? They might believe you and just leave so you won't have to shoot them, right?
The state prosecutor that Epstein was part of the intelligence services, and Alexander Acosta, despite this case, later became Trump's secretary of the third section of the third. If we ignore this massive corruption, what couldn't be ignored was that by 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was a registered sex offender. So besides the rumors about some shady things on his island, you already had a court-convicted predator. By then, no one could pretend to be innocent or claim ignorance, causing many of his friends to distance themselves, but a lot of them didn't really care. Like Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and others. His last few years of freedom were still haunted by controversy, but without Maxwell, who distanced herself from him in 2015. It was the start of Epstein's downfall. He might have escaped if former prosecutor Alexander Acosta, seeking a spot in Trump's cabinet as Secretary of Labor, hadn't revived the case. For this reason, he had to testify before Congress to prove that he was suitable for the job. And because of that, he also came under the scrutiny of journalists. Over 25 years of raping and trafficking underage girls, which was systematically protected by a corrupt government and intelligence agencies, was ended by a journalist who informed the general public about the whole affair. So it can't be overlooked that thanks to the work of journalists and the outrage of citizens demanding immediate justice, Epstein finally ended up behind bars after years. He was arrested on July 6, 2019. The FBI detained him at a New Jersey airport. Epstein and his entire network of traffickers and abusers were caught. Even though it was a tough fight.
Exactly.
The government's corruption was investigated and all collaborators were punished, even though it was an unprecedented failure of the state, and regaining trust in the institutions will not be easy. This investigation of the affair at least helped. And you probably know what happened.
But with my son, I think that's how it was.
He was imagining it.
Epstein was in custody for about a month. He spent most of that time in solitary confinement, after which he was moved to suicide watch because he tried to commit suicide, even though he himself claimed that he had been attacked. And you won't believe it, but at that moment, the camera just happened to not be working. That afterwards, he was moved again. What a coincidence. On August 2nd, he was found hanged with a bed sheet. He was supposed to be watched the whole time. Guards slept through their shift, cameras near Epstein's cell failed, and he was found only in the morning per the official court report.
And I don't understand why people believe in conspiracy theories. Like, really? Come on. Why would people believe in conspiracy theories just because Jeffrey Epstein tried to commit suicide? They put him on suicide watch, but then they put him back, turned off the cameras. The guards were asleep, and then they found him dead. We don't really know any real answers. The doctor said he likely didn't kill himself. Someone else did. Just because of these little things. Then we start believing in conspiracy theories. Crazy. People need very little. Yes, yes.
The expert ruled it as suicide, but rumors say the autopsy was rushed so the expert could go on vacation. And Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, believed it was a murder, so he hired his own expert to give his professional opinion on the situation. And he claims that the fractures around the neck are more consistent with murder than with suicide. Assuming the American government is truthful and Epstein actually committed suicide, or you know that... One thing is clear, not only did he escape justice, but he also escaped the chance to testify in court and implicate all his accomplices and clients.
This comes just a day after bombshell court documents were unsealed in a case connected to Epstein, revealing accusations against some famous names.
A shocking turn of events.
Po prohlídce FBI se prostě našly skrytý kamery, které pozorovaly každý úhel v jeho nemovitostech. I záchody. Proč by tohle dělal? Mohlo to celý být pro prachy, Ale jako... Pojďme si pořádně projít, pro koho mohl Epstein potenciálně pracovat. Protože jako jo, může člověka napadnout samotného, udělat blackmail Harry pod operaci, ale možná, že to bylo taky na objednávku nějaký tajné služby. Tomu všemu nasvědčují jeho konexe s Robertem Maxwellem, jeho falešný rakouský pán. A relationship with the Israeli state and its former prime minister Ehud Barak. We also have testimony from former Mossad agent Ari Ben Menashe.
He was put straight with the surrender by Robert Maxwell at the time.
He's not very credible, and last but not least, Alex Acosta. Will we ever be able to say with 100% certainty who was really behind it? Probably not. It already is. Intelligence agencies don't want to just be intelligence agencies. Logically speaking, the most implicated person in these documents is Donald Trump.
No, Donald Trump isn't there. It just says that Epstein doesn't like him. Donald Trump never did anything wrong. No.
Do you know who isn't in the Epstein files? No, that's worth considering too. The most frustrating part is not knowing.
No, he's not there. No, he's not there. Even Petr Pavel isn't there. Why isn't Netanyahu there? How is that possible?
We still get new declassified documents, but the essential information remains unchanged.
Okay. He's not there because he's the creator. Careful. Yeah, like you can say, Netanyahu isn't there because he was never there, ever. Because he was never on the island. Or you can say, Netanyahu isn't there because the island is his creation. And Petr Pavel isn't there either because they cooked it up together, right? You know, company, but you get it. You get it.
Bill Clinton, he was implicated even after Epstein's death. Any comments on your allegation about your Epstein? The same goes for Bill Gates, the same for Prince Andrew. Did anything happen to them? No.
The king's younger brother was taken into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Okay.
You're trying to tell me here that the whole Epstein thing is a Mossad operation to get compromise on influential American people and generally on influential people all over the world, so that through the compromise, Jews could control all the rich and influential people and then use that to control politics and maybe push some presidents to attack countries that Israel doesn't like. That's a conspiracy theory. Unconfirmed. Anti-Semitism, yuck. Who said that?
Something happened.
It comes weeks after the Justice Department released emails Andrew allegedly sent to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. Andrew has not been charged with a crime. But his release doesn't mean he's in the clear. Police tonight are saying he is under investigation.
The American government did everything it could to protect these people from justice, which, if you believe that modern America is no longer a democracy.
By the way, I just want to say that I don't have any suicidal thoughts. I'm not taking any medication, and I'm not being treated for any illness. My blood pressure is fine. But that's no reason for me to fall out a window, okay? I'm a fairly healthy person. And ask my doctor. And ask my dietitian, like, all my problems have nothing to do with me possibly having a heart attack or anything like that. All right.
This case shows that in America today, capital holds more power than the state. Documents stored in the FBI archives seem ignored and go uninvestigated. Strangely, the whole situation now seems aimed at undermining democracy, with Republicans trying to cover it up and resolve it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past.
And I'll fight to put human trafficking monsters where they belong. Behind bars.
Little Kokonatka couldn't defeat Don, especially after his followers saw it as a miracle that he survived his assassination attempt. And this mandate from heaven was given to him so that he could finally launch the second assassination attempt.
Who can aim so precisely that they hit the ear and not the head? Who? Hi. A trained Mossad agent, maybe? Thank you.
that DC swamp and destroyed the deep state again. You really thought...
That you mean it, that the firefighter knew it all along? Okay, that's a bit much. Maybe there was never any assassination attempt. Thank you. Maybe there was never any assassination attempt. Maybe I should be a little less conspiratorial, yes. Maybe now I believe in things that would... I don't believe in things. He was supposedly a madman. Of course he was a madman. What else could he be but a madman after all? Sure. Madmen. That's what they told you, right? That's what they told you.
He will release documents incriminating himself. So here's a badge for you for swallowing it hook, line, and sinker. Or not you specifically, dear viewer, but there were people who thought so. Pam Bondi, former Trump lawyer and now the top federal prosecutor, has those documents on his desk, so don't worry, it'll be out soon and all the Democrats will be behind bars.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
When can we see them? And why is the release taking so long?
200 victims, so we have to make sure that their identity is...
And then a big media spectacle. The first batch of Epstein documents was given to state-approved influencers.
They walked out of the White House holding binders labeled the Epstein files.
Volume 1, that means there will be more.
Our memo on Epstein points out that there was no client list.
When Patel goes to testify before Congress before that...
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest in human history? Simple, because of who's on that list. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic young women to besides himself? There is no credible information.
Epstein had 1,000 girls. Just think about that. He was trafficking for himself, not for anyone else. Here you go.
That makes sense.
Exposing Epstein's high-powered people like Acosta.
Who protected him? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Actually, the whole Epstein thing is a Democratic hoax cooked up by Obama and Joe Biden.
We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? Unbelievable. This is the worst cover-up of my lifetime, the Epstein case. If you can get away with this, you really can get away with anything. Jeffrey Epstein
isn't with us
anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Okay, this isn't working. Quick, do something crazy.
What are you doing up there?
Making a little wrong.
Come down and talk to us.
Hey guys, you won't believe this. Trump was actually an FBI informant who wanted to destroy the whole network from the inside.
FBI informant to try to take this stuff.
Ghislaine Maxwell is going behind closed doors.
Oh, And he slept with those girls just to get dirt, like to get information, so the girls would start trusting him and tell him things. I get it. That was part of the operation. No questions.
To testify. She said that Trump is innocent, and as a reward, she's now in a minimum security prison, where as a registered sexual predator, she legally shouldn't even be.
In the wake of Donald Trump all but admitting that he's in the Epstein files, I'm done discussing Epstein for now. I'll trust my friends in the government to handle it. The ball's in their court.
Even if the president falls, people will still talk about Epstein. I don't know, maybe kill Charlie Kirk?
We are Charlie.
Oh. Well, I don't know. Now, oh my God, he was trying to save himself. He was trying to protect his own life. But it wasn't enough. And that's why now we're all Charlie Kirk.
Mr. President, what are your feelings about the killing of Charlie Kirk? Did they get...
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They just started constructing the new ball for the White House.
And we also have some documents that are expected to be created.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we're currently working on that with the Department of Justice.
There are tens of thousands of videos.
And we still have some to create.
And we still have some documents that will be created.
New fallout from the most transparent administration ever. There's almost no text, it's just black.
Surely the FBI had good reason to redact the entire thing, probably protecting victims' privacy and all, right? Since that's literally the only legal reason they can redact these files.
No, we're giving you everything we have so far. Everything we have to do.
Ooh, I think Charlie Kirk is a Mossad agent. Huh? How? Like, why? How does that fit into the conspiracy? Explain it.
They noticed two things. First, some pages, when you put them into FL Studio, it's actually pretty good music.
You soak into me like rain, and I soak in for you. You won't find happiness like this.
And secondly,
some of the redacted parts could simply be copied. You could move them to another document where you could read them.
No sensitive, identifiable information is present. It's important because it means information is being withheld for essentially no reason.
And there's speculation that some agents did this on purpose, or it's because Elon Musk and Doge canceled the government's Adobe subscription. So they couldn't redact properly.
But I don't think so. I think it's more likely that those FBI agents just did it on purpose. Yeah, that it was a partisan operation by some of the people who were censoring it.
It turned out that the FBI had evidence all along that this whole operation had more accomplices, and they were intentionally censoring, which is direct evidence that Kash Patel lied under oath. Will he go to jail for that? No, because if you look at him closely, he had crossed eyes, which is the same as having crossed fingers, so...
Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it. You recognize death when you see it, and that's what that was.
They killed him.
And you're gonna get the video of the cell.
Recently, the Justice Department released a security video from the jail. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area.
And you're gonna see for yourself.
A new analysis of surveillance video by CBS News shows a partial view of what may be someone possibly headed up to Epstein's cell tier. The night he died,
someone entering the area where Epstein was being housed the night of his death or before his death. Could you definitively say that it's impossible that someone went in there that night?
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out.
You can see it.
Yeah, something moved in there. Something moved in there.
At last, we now have access to more on Epstein.
Orange uniform, by the way. An orange uniform that shouldn't be in this ward. It should be brown.
And we're starting to understand why no one wanted to let this out. In the past, it was easy to underestimate who Epstein was in contact with, how far his sphere of influence reached. And now we can go through one PDF after another and find his conversations with Nordic princesses, oil sheikhs, leaders of European parties, scientists, biohackers, and Slovaks. We can find connections between the world of high politics and billionaires and be like a confused Hungarian in the cornfield, or maybe a Hungarian among Slovaks.
Or Slovaks are corn. We're not corn, but you are.
I don't know how that saying goes. He's discussing opportunities in Ukraine with Rocheldova. With Stephen Bannon, he's assessing a British anti-establishment figure, saying he's cheap. In another email, Michael Wolff reveals to him that Steve Bannon wants to refinance Marie Le Pen's party because it's too heavily funded by Russia. There's something unusual in this exchange between Epstein and Ehud Barak. You should clarify I don't work for Mossad. You or me? That I don't. Does this suggest they both work for Mossad? He also suggests in the recording that Barak reach out to Peter Thiel about Palantirs. And neither of them spells a single word of it correctly.
I've never met Peter Thiel. He looks like he's on drugs. However, he has a company called Palantir. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company, and look out, Palantir. Yes. How do you write Thiel, T-L-I-L-P, Thiel?
Here, they're dealing with trans ideology, and specifically that they're trying to target transition and diagnosis for children as young as 3 years old. Nice. Okay. Epstein also had dinner with the founder of Fortune, after which in 2016 my war for Donald Trump started. Maxwell also historically had the largest account on Reddit and managed Our Politics and Our World News. A confidential human source for the FBI claims that Donald Trump is fully compromised by Israel.
Culture wars are not an organic thing, but artificially created? Or is it both at the same time?
And that the real brain behind his presidency is his Jewish son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The same Jared Kushner who, as part of the Port of Peace, presents a master plan to turn bombed-out Gaza into a tourist destination. Totally.
And make more?
How do you create direction? Few things evoke slavery and ethnic cleansing like photos from a sci-fi city. Now we glimpse this world from the inside. A world where laws are meaningless and you can escape any situation if you know the right person. Watching how arrogantly he and some of his acquaintances look down on others. Because besides confirming corruption, cronyism, human trafficking, and pedophilia, this case revealed one more thing, and there's no other way to call it than ethnic supremacism. In private emails, Epstein and others used the word goy to refer to a non-Jewish person as an insult or mockery. Here, his Jewish acquaintance complains that he doesn't want to wait in the lobby because it's for goys. Peggy Siegel asks, will that party be 100% Jewish? Epstein replies, there will be some goys there, but they're smart wasps, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, so it's fine. Larry Summers asks Epstein about Congress's cooperation with tax loopholes. Epstein says most have already been caught and closed. Well, at least for the goys. Here, Mark Fisher claims that the Jewish soul is on a higher level than the non-Jewish soul. Here, Roger explains to Ushrink how Jews make money and tells the goys to deal with the real world. He wrote to Boris Nichols, the absurd idea was Gates's that all life is equal. That's Catholicism at its worst. They're discussing in the email that the more genetically Jewish someone is, the smarter they are and are analyzing the percentages. After taking the genetic test, he learned he's Jewish and likely has 2 recessive genes causing hyperbeep.
Yes, yes. So that's why he had those 1,000 people to himself, right?
Epstein files with 3 million documents will shatter your worldview. A valid response ranges from, let's take torches to the streets to, I'm turning off my phone and walking in the mountains. It's easy to let this case consume you mentally. In my opinion, choosing to ignore it isn't a failure. The truth is, only miracles, relentless pressure, and 7 years of public interest have created even a small chance that those now laughing at the public. People who feel untouchable, unaccountable, and superior will at least face some consequences in the future. Sure, for example, those who wrote this. I won't be covered by my dad.
We are Jeffrey Epstein, we carry the flame.
Very, very good. Very, oof. Disgusting. Very disgusting and very good. Here, have a like, Mikýř. I don't think I can give this any more visibility, so I'll at least share you on my socials. Can I get some applause in chat? Can I get some applause, please? Let's drop a comment there. Or something like, we are Mikýř. We are Mikýř. We carry plamen. Tak. Absolute censorship. Absolute censorship. Oof. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's behind us. That's behind us. I have to say, good. Very good. Look at that. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. And tune into the streams. We're going to continue.